What would you do if saving one innocent woman meant crossing land where every rider before you had vanished without a trace? The old railroad maps marked the territory with a warning so simple it chilled the blood. Do not cross. Yet one man ignored it. A railroad scout named Ethan Cole saddled his horse and rode straight into Sioux ground, carrying nothing but a worn rifle, a guilty conscience, and a promise he could not break. The woman he was searching for had been banished by her own people, hunted by outlaws, and abandoned by the very town she once called home. Many believed she was already dead. Others prayed she was. But Ethan knew something nobody else knew. The exile of that woman was built on a terrible lie. And before this journey ended, the truth would ignite a war between greed and honor, test the courage of an entire frontier, and force one railroad man to choose between his life and his soul. Stay with me until the end, because the final choice Ethan makes beside a burning railroad bridge will leave you speechless. The year was 1883, and the railroad pushed westward like a steel river across the endless frontier. Towns appeared almost overnight wherever the tracks reached. Merchants grew rich. Landowners grew richer. And those who stood in the way often disappeared. Ethan Cole had spent 15 years working for the railroad company. He knew every canyon, river crossing, and mountain pass between Wyoming and Dakota Territory. People trusted Ethan because he rarely spoke and never lied. But there was one mistake he carried like a stone inside his chest. 3 months earlier, a woman named Sarah Whitmore had been accused of helping Sioux warriors sabotage a railroad survey camp. The evidence seemed convincing. Witnesses swore they had seen her. Company officials demanded punishment. Town leaders demanded exile. And Ethan had remained silent. Sarah was forced from town. Nobody listened when she begged for a fair hearing. Nobody cared when she claimed she was innocent. Least of all the railroad investors who wanted the matter forgotten. Then something unexpected happened. A dying surveyor confessed. The sabotage had never been Sarah's doing. It had been arranged by wealthy land speculators hoping to create fear and drive settlers away from land they secretly planned to buy. The entire accusation was a lie. By the time Ethan learned the truth, Sarah was gone. No one knew where she had gone except for one frightened trapper who claimed she had crossed into Sioux territory. A place few white settlers entered willingly. The railroad directors ordered Ethan to forget what he had learned. The town wanted peace. The investors wanted silence. But Ethan could not sleep. Every night he remembered Sarah standing in the town square, begging people to believe her. Finally he made a decision. He resigned from the railroad, saddled his horse, and rode west. Days passed beneath a scorching sun. The prairie stretched endlessly. Buffalo bones littered the ground like ghosts from another age. Ethan followed faint trails and rumors. Again and again people warned him to turn back. But he continued. Then one evening he found evidence. Fresh horse tracks. A torn piece of blue fabric. And signs of a struggle. Someone was hunting Sarah. The tracks belonged to armed men. Outlaws. Not Sioux warriors. That discovery changed everything. The deeper Ethan traveled, the clearer the truth became. Sarah was not hiding. She was running. Running for her life. Meanwhile Sarah struggled to survive among unfamiliar lands. She had learned to distrust nearly everyone. Her supplies were running low. Winter clouds gathered on the horizon. And the men chasing her were getting closer. One night she saw campfires in the distance. 3 separate fires. 3 separate groups. The Sioux. The outlaws. And somewhere beyond them, Ethan. Neither knew destiny was pulling them together. The chapter ends when Ethan discovers a murdered hunter hanging from a tree. Pinned to the body is a message. Turn back or join her. For the first time since leaving town, Ethan wonders whether he is already too late. Ethan ignored the warning. The next morning he crossed fully into Sioux territory. Instead of finding enemies, he encountered people struggling against the same greed threatening everyone else. The railroad investors wanted more than tracks. They wanted rivers, valleys, grazing land. Everything. And Sarah had accidentally discovered documents proving their scheme. That was why she had been framed. That was why she had been exiled. And that was why powerful men wanted her dead. After days of searching, Ethan finally found her. Weak. Exhausted. But alive. Their reunion was not joyful. Sarah blamed Ethan for staying silent when she needed him most. She was right. Ethan accepted every word. For the first time in years, he admitted his cowardice. He confessed that fear of losing his job had mattered more than doing what was right. The truth hurt. But it began healing something between them. Soon their problems became far larger. The outlaws found them. A ruthless gang hired by corrupt investors surrounded the valley. Gunfire echoed through the hills. The Sioux warriors who had sheltered Sarah prepared for battle. Ethan realized a massacre was coming. Unless he stopped it. Using his railroad knowledge, Ethan devised a desperate plan. A wooden railroad bridge crossed a deep canyon nearby. If the outlaws crossed it, dozens of innocent people would die. If the bridge fell, the attackers would be trapped. But destroying it meant destroying years of railroad work and sacrificing the career Ethan once loved. As flames consumed the bridge, Ethan rode directly into danger. Bullets tore through the smoke. Horses screamed. The canyon roared below. Then came the moment everything depended upon. Ethan reached the center of the burning bridge. With seconds remaining, he cut the final support beam. The structure collapsed. Fire exploded into the darkness. The outlaws were stopped. The valley was saved. But Ethan disappeared into the smoke. For days nobody knew whether he lived or died. Sarah refused to give up hope. Then one morning, as sunlight touched the mountains, a lone rider appeared on the horizon. Ethan had survived. Months later, the truth about the conspiracy became public. Corrupt investors were exposed. The town that once exiled Sarah begged forgiveness. But Sarah never returned to live there. Instead, she helped build a new community where justice mattered more than power. And Ethan stayed by her side. Not as a hero. Not as a savior. But as a man who finally found the courage to do what was right. The frontier remembered many battles. Many gunfights. Many legends. Yet the story people told for generations was simpler than all of them. One railroad man crossed forbidden ground to save an exiled woman. And in doing so, saved his own soul. The greatest courage is not facing bullets. It is admitting when you were wrong and risking everything to make it right. If today's story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And remember, even a small act of kindness can change someone's entire life. Red Heart.